was at a meeting one day and a woman said to me, Sharon, have you really thought about this? Because I don't really think you can do it. I don't really think you're up to it. She says, I don't think you really considered what you signed up for. And I said, thank you. I just needed someone to tell me I couldn't do it. Now I know for sure I can do it.
Everybody has that main goal of, it could be, to walk to the Cathedral of St. James, to walk to Santiago de Compostela, but there's so many reasons that come behind it, of why they're doing it, for who they're doing it, their motives, and what they get from it.
And I don't think I could have done it without CJ, because CJ, I really leaned on him, and he was so compassionate and so full of grace towards me and so concerned about me that it was like, I called myself the princess on the Camino because I was so well taken care of.
Being in that element, thinking we're the only ones on this mountain and just having fun in this, it really showed that happiness is a choice that we make. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. That could have been the most miserable experiences for most people, and we had the best time that day.
We were sharing stories with each other, and all of a sudden I had this moment that I said, I'm not an American, I'm a human being on the planet with other human beings, and I'm actually a citizen of the universe, of the earth, a citizen of the earth. And I am as connected to all of these people who are loving and kind and giving and want to help and share and do.
I think three of the biggest things that we stress about is time, our wealth or money, and then our health. It's kind of a triangle of health, wealth, and time.
Hello, pilgrims. Welcome to the Way to Your Way podcast. Today we have two guests. So they are just walked the Camino Francés like a month ago, the whole Camino. And they are mom and son, and they both decided to walk the Camino together. And they are originally from Utah. Sharon, she's a teacher, a director, a principal from a high school. And then CJ has been working as a professional fisherman in Alaska, and also he's been teaching how to do snowboarding as well during winter time. And we are going to be talking to them what made them to decide to go to the Camino, and how they are originally from Utah. They are living right now. Sharon is living in Texas, and CJ is living in Tennessee. How they coordinated for going to the Camino. So let's find out. So hello, Sharon and CJ. How are you doing today?
Good, very well.
Yeah, really good. Really excited.
Thank you for joining here us today. And so the first question that I have for you, and I will start with Sharon, and then if you can say your part after your mom, CJ, would be great. So Sharon, what made you to think and walk in the Camino de Santiago?
This is a really simple answer. I retired January 1st of this year. Okay. And then I went out to Utah to visit CJ and my family out there. And CJ introduced me, embarrassingly enough, to the Camino, because I didn't know of the Camino. And we talked about it as an adventure, and he invited me to go, and I immediately said yes. End of story. No questions. Want to go with you? So I was completely motivated by the fact that I would get to be with my son for 6 solid weeks, and nothing could make me happier.
Wow, that was easy decision.
It was a no-brainer, no question. And my husband said, "Why do you want to do it? You don't like when you get dirty. You don't like, dirty clothes. You don't like." I said, I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care. Just the fact that I moved away and we've lived apart for a long time. We got to be together, and we were very, very close when he was growing up. Was just the happiest thing that I could possibly do with my life.
Well, that's great. And what about you, CJ?
So very similar to what my mom said. The history of it was last summer 2024, I hiked the Appalachian Trail, and that's kind of a niche community of everybody talking about what hikes they've previously done, what they're doing next, what work they're going to do, what jobs, what adventures they're going to do. And so I heard the Camino a couple times, but same as what you said, Mom, we felt guilty not knowing, because people have had this dream to do it for 20, 30 years, and we were ignorant didn't even know that it existed. And when I finished that trail last fall, I had a friend that had done the Pacific Crest Trail, and she said, "Hey, have you heard about the Camino? Let's go hike the Camino." So I did some research on it, and I said, "Hey, thanks for the invite, but I'm going to see if my mom wants to do it with me." She's retiring here this winter, and I think it'd be an awesome opportunity for her and I to go. And it's funny, I was looking through, before this meeting, I was looking through the videos and photos to see the timeline of everything. And what you said, Mom, you guys visited January 24th. I took a picture of the night we started talking about it, and we watched the famous movie that I'm sure everyone talks about, The Way, with Martin Sheen. That night at 9 p.m. on January 24th is when we watched the movie, and yeah, we were sold on it. And I think a lot of that planning happened just from that first day of us committing to it and saying, let's make it happen. But my mom's famous words that everybody asks her, and you kind of answered that already, Mom, is, "You're not a hiker. This isn't your thing." And she always would say, if your 31-year-old son asks you to do anything for 6 weeks, whether it's shark diving or climbing mountains or doing whatever, you say yes to it just because the time is so valuable. So, that night we both talked about it, and we were full on board after that.
Wow, that's an experience. I have not walked the whole Camino. I have walked section, yes, but not the whole like you did. And my wife just recently did it when you were walking as well. And then, but you hear what I've been doing is interviewing pilgrims that have been walked that, and it's amazing. The common denominator is the excitement, the joy, the connection that happened through the whole Camino, the different little experiences that you have along 6 weeks. I'm pretty sure there are a lot. And I know that one of them, I know that you just were sleeping just with the sky over you. So how was that?
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. You actually slept under the sky. Oh, my vacuum's being loud.
I'll go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah,
it'll be quiet.
it was the ruins of San Antón. And this kind of goes into one of the other questions, too, of how we planned everything and how we scheduled everything out. A lot of it was just day of things that we learned, and we liked doing it that way, of not having a lot planned ahead. We liked not knowing about things prior to, and it was almost more of a surprise and really special experience by learning about it last second. And so I think 2 days before we got to San Antón, to these old ancient ruins, someone had said, "Oh, there's this place, there's a certain albergue where you can sleep under the stars." And we thought, "What, is that real?" And we also heard that no, they don't do that anymore, and that's like, okay, whatever. And so that was a little bit of a shorter day for us. A lot of people went to the next town ahead, and when we stopped there, we thought, yeah, we're definitely staying here. This is like one of the most unique experiences we could have, and it ended up being the most unique experience. The hospitalero, like the volunteer there named Antonino, greeted us there, and we spent the whole afternoon with him. And it was kind of a rundown, not well taken care of albergue inside. There was, I think, 12 beds. And that night there was only 4 groups that stayed. There was us from United States, a guy biking from Mexico, another guy from Brazil, and then a couple from Denmark. It's funny because my mom's going to say the guy from Brazil, his name's Simon, and now it's in my head too. His name's not Simon, but now I can't think of his real name. I think it's Marcos.
Marco.
Yeah, it's Marco. Okay. So anyways, we had a great dinner. It was like a very connected moment. We felt like a family there. We had the bread soup, the garlic bread soup, enjoyed some fresh melon for dessert, and all shared our experiences, and we felt really connected. And then right before we finished dinner, we were planning on going back into bed, and he said, "Oh, by the way, if any of you would like to sleep outside, we have a couple of cots." I think it was supposed to get down to, I don't remember, maybe it was pretty cold, maybe in the 60s, 50s. So it's kind of a thing of, if you guys want to, you can. If not, and I immediately was like, yeah, that's what I want to do no matter what. So there was a couple blankets. We set up a cot, and I convinced Marcos to do it, and then he convinced the other guy from Mexico to do it, Carlos. So the 3 of us were out under the stars, and it turned out to be just epic. Of you're laying there looking up at, it started out as a little bit cloudy, but as the night got darker and the moon came out, you could see all of the stars, and you could just lay there and just really feel the natural environment. It was a very special experience.
Well, that's nice. Do you know that the Milky Way is parallel to the Camino Francés?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
wow, that's
it was
an
really
experience.
cool to see. Like they say, the Santiago de Compostela, like the field of stars, and that was like, this is exactly what we're doing. Like we felt like we were in tune with the pilgrimage. I think I still have it on the Tau. I bought this the night of that we stayed in there. We read the history of that, as how the pilgrims wore that for protection because a lot were getting sick from eating all the rye bread. And so it was a really cool thing to have that protection. And now every day I see it, it reminds me of that night.
Okay. Were you able to take pictures from the stars?
Yeah. And it took 7,200 pictures on the trip. So
I took so many pictures, and that night I took a lot. It has the night mode, which made for some incredible photos. I'll have to send them to you after, but we took such good photos that we shared it with the people we slept with the next morning, and word spread. So we were at lunch the next day and people were like, hey, we heard about your photos. We have to see your photos. Will you please send those? So the next couple of days, everybody was asking for our star photos.
Well, that's nice. Well, how about you? How was the experience for you, Sharon, on that night?
That night was, like CJ said, it was, I mean, the volunteer there, he wasn't necessarily interested in cleaning. He was very happy to be social and accommodating and friendly and talkative. But it was the dirtiest albergue we stayed in. And but ironically, I slept through the whole entire night just fine, which was not the norm for me in albergues. I had a struggle with sleeping on the trail. And that night, I think there was just a really special feeling and a special moment to it that was different from everything else. And so I was so thrilled because when I walked out and saw how happy CJ was, of course, it brought me joy too, to know that there was no way to replicate that experience again in life.
Wow. Yeah. That's super nice. So then, talking about your profession, that being a principal from a high school, and how you can relate your experience or all the challenges that happen through your Camino with responsibilities as a principal.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I read the question yesterday and I interpreted it just a little bit different, because one of the things that I was really happy to do was leave the United States for a little while, because I stopped watching the news in January, but you can't not be a part of the zeitgeist going on. If you're in America, you're in America. You're going to hear. So the first few days, and I will guarantee you, CJ will second this, I could not stop talking about politics. I just could not stop talking about it. And he graciously would just sort of veer off alone on his own a little bit, or walk with someone else. And your wife and I talked about it quite a bit. But I started noticing that by day 8 or 9, that I had this sort of spiritual moment where I was walking with all these people from different countries. We were sharing stories with each other. And all of a sudden I had this moment that I said, I'm not an American. I'm a human being on the planet with other human beings. And I'm actually a citizen of the universe, of the earth, a citizen of the earth. And I am as connected to all of these people who are loving and kind and giving and want to help and share and do. And it was one of those moments where you see people at their best and you have hope for humanity. And you know that with love and with the right kinds of tools that we have from God, we know a better way. And especially with your wife, who told me she's never going to give up hope and never have hope. So that was one of my most enjoyable moments, was meeting so many different people who would openly share and talk and have that experience. And plus, I'm really happy to be retired. So, I didn't think about working or about any of that at all while I was on the trip. I just thought about how blessed really and how privileged I was to be able to have this time and affordability with my son to do this, because really, it was the best 6 weeks of my life.
Well, that's really good. And then you know that just 2 days ago, I was talking with 2 weeks ago. No, sorry, 2 weeks ago. On the episode 2 weeks ago, I was talking with a daughter and a dad that they walk the Camino as well together, and he's retired as well, and but he has been retired since 2009.
Wow.
And I was totally telling him, "Wow, you have been enjoying so much your retirement because he still looks very young, and doing fantastic. And the Camino, they have walked twice the Camino.
Oh, wow.
The whole Francés, and they are really happy. So you see, this experience is like it's like a change of life.
Yes. Yes.
So
And-
what would you? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I did that I wouldn't recommend, but it was really smart for me and for my brain, is that I knew that I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to do it. Physically, I'm not really athletic. So I decided to just not listen to anybody tell me about, okay, you got to walk 10 miles with your backpacking 100 degrees and you got to really train and do all of this kind of stuff. I was like, let's just let God take care of all that stuff and not have fear with anything. And I was at a meeting one day and a woman said to me, Sharon, have you really thought about this? Because I don't really think you can do it. I don't really think you're up to it. She says, I don't think you really considered what you've signed up for. And I said, thank you. I just needed someone to tell me I couldn't do it. Now I know for sure I can do it. I have no questions, I can do it. So that shows you how my brain sort of works. And it was I was able to. It was great. It was fun. I was really feel blessed that I was able to do it. But I will say that I don't think I could have done it alone. And I don't think I could have done it without CJ, because CJ, I really leaned on him, and he was so compassionate and so full of grace towards me and so concerned about me that it was like, I called myself the princess on the Camino because I was so well taken care of.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So that's very good for you, CJ.
Yeah.
So what you can tell about that your side?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you said about not being able to do it without me, and there was definitely motivation on both ends, because there was days where you said, I'll meet you in the next town, or I'm going to take a break, or this or that, and there was never the question of my mom saying, do you want to take a break with me, or how are you? Like, she never asked, how are your legs, or how are you? I mean, I'm sure you did, but it was almost, to me, in my mind, is my mom thinks I'm immortal, so I can't show any weakness, or I can't show that I'm slowing down. As she called me her mule of carrying her when I needed to carry her water, or clothes, or extra snacks, or whatever it was. There was never a doubt in my mind. Just like you said, that one lady that motivated you. For me, it was like, okay, there's no questions about this. I'm the guide, I'm the carrier. So yeah, it was definitely reassuring.
Yeah, and I was watching some video from you, CJ. You have a YouTube channel, and I remember that you were working something here in North Carolina. I don't remember exactly what part of North Carolina, but was a hill. That hill was like like that, and you were walking and you went the other way around, and you were talking that it was kind of difficult to go through that because you can slide to the bottom. So you remember about that trail that you were walking here in North Carolina?
Yeah.
Where was that?
Yeah, that was Hemp Hill Bald. It's just along the border of North Carolina and Tennessee in Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Okay. Well, then, comparing that experience with the experience that you had in the Camino, were you in the Camino facing things like that, or was totally different?
Yeah, it's funny because that's how it started. Is my mind was almost programmed because of doing those previous trails, or maybe more difficult trails and hikes, that I came with that preconception of this is how it's going to be. It's going to be hard. We got to do this, and thinking all that. And I had to almost brainwash myself thinking, no, it's not anything like that. I got to get that out of my head. It's not that physically demanding. And there was a mix of both, because there were certain days that were very similar to, 4,000 to 5,000 feet elevation change. And you did have to go through different conditions and weather, heat, wind, not having water. But we did a lot of research and preparation, knowing that I don't want to say it's not that extreme, because it was very extreme, but you're not really exposed to the elements as much as you would be in more dangerous situations. Once we knew every night we were going to have a warm bed we could sleep at, there's fresh water in a lot of places. We'd pass restaurants, bars, cafes. We'd have bathrooms and showers every night. It was very reassuring that, yeah, we're exposed during the day to these elements, but we had fun when we were headed up to the day before O Cebreiro. We were headed up to, not remembering the name of the town, but there was this huge rainstorm coming. This is just one experience. And Mom, you're smiling because you know exactly what it was. We got to the town.
You need me to tell the story. I was going to tell the story.
We got to this town, and these black clouds came in, and we had almost perfect weather, according to as far as weather goes, like really easy weather, sunny, not too hot, not cold, not rainy. We hadn't taken out our rain jackets, and finally the storm was coming. And I was so excited because I love being exposed to these elements and feeling that rush, that where you're really alive and you're really living, and there's dangerous moments. It makes your blood rush. It makes you feel, most alive. And everybody that we were walking with that day went into that town and took cover, took refuge, hid, stayed there for the night. And we did the exact opposite. As soon as we saw those clouds coming, we said, we're going up this mountain. This is going to be epic. And 10 minutes into it is when the rain really started pouring, and it was blowing sideways. It got us wet within 30 seconds. We were completely drenched. It didn't matter if we had our rain jackets on or not. Everything was soaked through. And we had music playing, and we were singing and dancing. And it was like one of the top highlights of the Camino, where majority of people, and just how our society is, would think, oh, it's rainy and muddy and cold and wet, all these things. We knew at the end of the day we were getting a hot shower. We are going to be fine. We can wash our clothes. But being in that element and thinking we're the only ones on this mountain and just having fun in this, it really showed that happiness is a choice that we make. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. That could have been the most miserable experiences for most people, and we had the best time that day.
Well, and for me, the rain started, and he started to just light up. And it was like dragon tooth rocks. It was not like just a trail that was straight. And he started running up the mountain with his arms up in the air, cheering and screaming. And it was just, and I said, that's who my son is. That's who he is as a person. And it was so fun to see that joy that he has from the beauty of the earth.
Yeah, that's amazing how that happened. That if you are in the city, you don't see it like that.
No.
But because you are there and you are just surrounded of too many things that are beautiful, for you it's more happiness.
Yeah.
And we live a similar experience. I don't know if my wife told you that to you or no, but was when we were walking the Coastal Portuguese Camino I believe it was April of this year. the power get out from all Spain, the whole country, plus Portugal as well.
Oh, wow.
And we were so excited. So there was no power. No power means no cell phone, no credit card, no nothing. No ATM, because everything's work with power. And if the country doesn't have power, nothing's going to work. And we were walking the Camino. For us, how important is if there is power or is no power? And we continue walking. At the beginning, you can use the credit card because there were still some machines that were probably with the battery or connection, I don't know, they were working. But there was some point in the afternoon that none of them can work. And they say, well, if you have cash, you can pay. If not, we do not know. But then we continue walking out to our next hotel during that day. And we were seeing people, and then the Spaniards, Spaniards are very calm. They don't worry so much. And they were just happy, and they say, well, we don't have more the cell phones. This is good. No more social media. It's good. We have time to play with our children. That's something good. Then at a later time, when we arrived to the hotel, so they say, it's okay. Don't worry. We have everything prepared. We have candles. We have this. Don't worry about that. The power is going to come back at some point. We went at night to a restaurant, and it was probably around 10 p.m., so it was already dark. And that restaurant was probably around more than 100 people, just relaxed, having a beer, of course, a warm beer, because there was no, to be cold, and a wine. They were having tapas, the cold tapas that they can have. Everybody was so happy. And then for us to pay back, they say, well, we don't have more euros. And they say, well, you have US dollars, pay in US dollars. So they accept the US dollar. And even if you don't have money, they will look around and say, well, come back tomorrow. And you pay when the power came back.
Wow.
So those are moments that you don't see it in other parts different that when you are joining something like that.
Yeah.
And for connecting, I would say also for being with nature and with all those things that are happening in the Camino. You don't need necessarily to be in the Camino. Here in the US, that we have too many places that are greens or greenways or parks, etc., that you can walk with groups and do something like that similar. And you enjoy those moments very good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for you, CJ, well, I know that you also walk the Appalachians, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last summer, yeah.
From where to where? How long have you been walking that? For how far?
That one is just over 3,500 kilometers, so it's 2,200 miles. It usually takes 5 to 6 months, so it's on the east coast of the United States, going from Georgia to Maine.
Okay, and have you walked the whole?
Yeah, I did it summer 2024, so I started in May and finished in August.
Okay, and you did it by yourself, or your mom came with you?
Yeah, just me. When I was about 3/4 of the way through, my mom and her husband visited me in Vermont and spent a couple days with me, got some rest and relaxation, loaded me up with groceries and good food, and then took off again.
Okay, and okay. So, what about that experience? How you compare that experience on the Appalachians with the Camino Francés?
Yeah, difficult. Because they are way unique, where for the Appalachian Trail, you're, again, a lot more exposed to those elements. You're on the ridge of a mountain for most of the time, and depending on how you could do it, they say that you hike your own hike. You can form it however you want, just like the Camino is. You can choose if you want to stay in hotels or albergues, if you want to cook your own food or eat at restaurants. The Appalachian Trail was a lot more wild, as far as there were some days I wouldn't see people. I think of the 100 days that I was out there, I stayed 5 or 6 nights in hostels Other than that, the other 90 plus days were either sleeping under the stars or sleeping in my tent or sleeping in a shelter, like just a little wooden structure up on top of the mountain. So it was very different as far as I was glad I did that one alone and doing it before the Camino, because I got to really find out who I was, what my motives were, my dreams, and my future plan, just kind of figure out my own mantra. And to know that I could do that, just like we've said before with the Camino, once you finish that walking your Camino, you know that the rest of your life you can accomplish anything. For me, that was a really personal and spiritual experience that I had time with myself. Whereas the Camino is very different because it's extremely social, depending on which part you do. I remember having a list of the Appalachian Trail, and over those 4 months, there was probably less than 100 people that I made really good connections with. And yeah, there's still a couple of lifelong friends and people that I knew, people that I still talk to. But the Camino, I was fortunate enough. I really like networking and making connections with people and hearing their stories. And I started in the notes on my phone, I would write down everybody's name or a little, note about them, like this guy from this place or this person that did this, so I'd remember them, because I think names are so important, and I'd always try to memorize people's names. And when we got about halfway through, this cafe owner brought us in, and he had a vending machine store where there was vending machines for everything: ice cream, snacks, pencils, popcorn, pizza, everything. And he said, "Where's your walking stick?" And I said, "Oh, I decided not to use it this time. I used it on the Appalachian Trail and I loved it, but I was like, I want to try it through hike without him to see the difference in my body," which sounds ridiculous, but I wanted to try it. And he says, "Well, you have to have a walking stick." So he goes into his office and he brings one out and he says, "Usually I sell these, but I want you to carry this." And it was made out of hazelnut. It was a really special staff or hiking stick. He gave it to me for free, and we walked out, and my mom says, "Are you going to carry that, or are you going to drop it off some spot? Because you didn't want to carry one." I said, "Well, now that it's a gift, I feel like I have to carry this." And it became one of the most special, iconic things of the trail, because as the pilgrims, the original pilgrims, had their walking staff, they carried a gourd with it. And everybody knew I had my chocolate milk every day. I strapped a chocolate milk bottle to my staff and walked with it. And everybody that I met, I would write in permanent marker on my staff. And so it's really special to meet people, and everybody asked questions about the staff, and everybody liked when they could see their name on it. And when we got to the end, I was debating on keeping it, taking it back to the United States, or leaving it there at Finisterre. And I tried to risk it and get it through the airport, and I ended up making it all the way through, thanks to some kind agents and everything. But long story short, it's back here, and it's like my most prized possession. But I wrote down everybody's names after, and there was the 33 days that we hiked, there was 180 people that I wrote down from 35 different countries. And so when you compare that to the Appalachian Trail, it was like we met so many people. And I feel like it's not just I wrote down a name as we were passing by, like, "Oh, that guy's name's John, I don't remember where he's from." No, these are all 180 people that we could call up tomorrow and go stay with for a week in Australia or England or Ireland. Like, we're friends that we'll stay in touch with forever. So that was one of the best parts of the trail, is meeting those people and making those connections. By far, it was really special.
Yeah, well, this is amazing. So that experience that you have all those names, and then when people from the Camino meet, the pilgrims meet, and it's like you can talk for so long, and nobody's gonna be getting bored about the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just recently in May, I went to a gathering that was organized by American Pilgrims on the Camino and the Canadian Company of Pilgrims, and that was in Canada, and there were about 400 pilgrims.
Wow.
And the happiness there. They talked. They were an orchestra there, like a merry band that they call the merry band, and they just play several songs. Everybody's singing, and actually, we have a video that is going to be before this one, that we're going to put it into YouTube. That we interviewed some of the members of the merry band, and so that was an experience. So I can tell you.
Yeah.
Then how was that? Because you live in Tennessee and you live in Texas. So were you living like that before you were going to the Camino?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you met each other? So you met in the US or in Spain?
Well, you should answer, CJ, since you've got the story.
Yeah, since she was retired, we knew that we had flexibility, but I was going to fish in Alaska for the summer, and it kind of worked out perfect because we didn't necessarily want to go in the summer when it was really busy, really hot. We did end up doing it for the month of September, which is the busiest, but the temperatures and weather was really, really good for us. But we owe it a lot to our friend, my childhood best friend, John. They were doing a destination wedding in Italy in August, and my cheap, efficient self thought, well, if I'm going to buy a flight to Italy, we might as well just start hiking after I get to Italy. And so I flew there August 13th for the wedding, had 3 weeks, and then we ended up meeting in Pamplona on August 27th,
Okay.
which was super cool to actually meet in Spain. It was just part of this movie-like scene where she was coming from Texas, I was coming from Italy, and we met up, and it all worked out together. But that was a hard part of figuring out gear, because we would just do phone calls and she would go to REI and then we'd call again and figure this out and that out. So that was one worry, is like making sure we had all the right stuff. That first night we did took everything out, went through every specific item of what to keep and what not to bring. And yeah.
Yeah, and I unpacked 6 pounds of stuff that I didn't take.
A lot, yeah.
But CJ sent me a list, and I went to REI, which to me is like going to a place on the earth that I don't understand anything. Found a girl, and I said, just fill this list. My son says this is what I have to have for the trail, and she did, and that's what I took. And now what's really funny about it is I promise, I wore those clothes straight for 43 days. And now when I get dressed in the morning, they're the only clothes I want to wear. I'm so in love with them, and they have so many memories embedded in them. So it's like, I thought I will never touch these clothes again or wear them, but they're like my favorite things I own.
Wow. Yeah. See everything that the Camino does.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like this morning, I said to CJ, I'm washing the windows of my house today, and I'm thinking about our good French friend who loved spaghetti westerns, and we played Western music with him, and he washes windows on high rises for a building. And it just made me so full of joy when I was washing the windows to picture him walking with us and joking with us and teaching us all about French history. And I just felt like it was just so special.
Okay. So I have another question. Would you be walking the Camino again?
We haven't talked about it.
I will be for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. CJ will be for sure. And I may or may not. I may or may do sections with him, meet him for some of the time. Some of it depends on if I can convince my husband to become a traveler.
Okay.
Because that's the one thing I want to do is travel in retirement. So,
well, yeah, take advantage of that, traveling all around the world.
Yeah.
My mom would talk with her husband daily about the Camino. It seems like it really had a big, powerful influence on him, where we were talked about, they could come back and do it a different version. It might not be that they're doing a full 10, 15 miles every day. They could take taxis to different spots, take more time, do the Portuguese route, do a smaller route, do it from Saria the last 5 days, whatever it may be. But that is the cool thing of having so many different routes to do and so much flexibility, and you really get to create however you want to do it. If you want to stay in really luxurious hotels every night, or cheaper community albergues. But I know I'll be doing it because our ignorance of not knowing what the Camino was, and when I started researching, I just thought it was one main route. And as soon as I learned you can talk about the thousands of different routes there, but all the main routes, I'm like, I got to do all main 8 routes. And then we figured the French route was the main one from St. John to Santiago. And as soon as I started walking and we were talking to people about it, and they said, well, the real French route is from Le Puy, hundreds of miles before that. And my brain just has to do everything. So I said, okay, I guess I'm coming back and starting from La Poy to do the entire thing. So there's something inside of me that wants to do everything and see everything. So I've talked with a couple of different pilgrims and we're already saying, okay, next year we'll do the Portuguese route and maybe we'll do the North route and the primitive route this year. And so I'll definitely be back. It'll be forever an impactful trail for me where I go with a sibling or a son or daughter or a different family member or a friend for sure.
Okay. Well, another question. Who do you think the Camino is for?
I can't imagine who it's not for.
Okay.
I mean, one thing I'm having a hard time at home talking to friends and people is trying to explain it to people. And I get it, because if they were trying to explain it to me, I wouldn't. Oh, okay. So it's this really long hike that you do that, and you stay in albergues, blah, blah, blah. I was like, it's just not that. It's just not that. There's so many layers and elements to it and moments. And it just, anyway, I'll go on and on a tangent, but I wish it's a feeling that I can't explain to other people I have found out.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to explain it because there's so many factors that go into it. Where we talked about the Appalachian Trail is a lot more wild, a lot more solitude. This has the factor of you still get wild experiences up in the mountains. You're still doing intense terrain. You go through the Pyrenees Mountains all the way to the sea, right? You have the social effect where you have that human connection and all that. You have the historical effect where you get to learn about tons of the history in Spain and the origin of the Camino. And then you have the religious or spiritual aspect. So all those, it's just this conglomerate of things that's so hard to explain into one ball. There's so many aspects of it, but I think you answered it perfectly, Mom, of who's it not for, because everybody can come for a different reason. Everybody has that main goal of, it could be, to walk to the Cathedral of St. James, to walk to Santiago de Compostela, but there's so many reasons that come behind it of why they're doing it, for who they're doing it, their motives, and what they get from it. So everybody has seen all the pictures and videos that I post of it, and they say, oh, I'd love to do this. And I almost get like strict or aggressive with them. I say, no, you have to do this. Like, you don't understand it. I don't want to say that everybody has to or force it on anybody, because some people don't like this or don't like that. And it's, it might not be your thing, but if there's any curiosity about it, and if you have the will or desire to do something different or experience something, it'll change your life forever.
Yeah,
that's absolutely correct. Well, so we are getting to the end. So for today's conversation, any advice that you tell someone that is considering to walk the Camino?
Yeah, don't think about it, just do it. I mean, just it's always that first action. Like, there's always something in the way. There's always something you have to wait for. There's always an excuse or a reason. And my suggestion, of course, I'm in current negotiations with my husband about this right now. It's like, I'm healthy right now. I retired right now. Go time is right now. That's it. Just, so, but then the other thing is and CJ and I traveled when he was really, really little. And one of the things I learned was all of the travel is beautiful. So when bad things happen, that's part of travel. And you can make it into a really good story and situation, like a delay or anything like that. It's just like, that's part of travel. So like all of it, just take it all as a whole package.
How about you, CJ?
Yeah, that was a really good answer. Those unplanned moments, Mom, like the rough times or the accidents or the things that we learned along the way are our best memories that we laugh and look back at. I think three of the biggest things that we stress about is time, our wealth or money, and then our health. They're kind of a triangle of health, wealth, and time. And once we have all three of those, if we have the time and the money and the health to do it, it's easy to say you could go do the Camino, but you might not have the time off of work. Might not have enough money to do it, or you might not be healthy to do it. And not to say those are excuses, but it doesn't have to be you don't have to take a whole month or 6 weeks off of work. You can do 5 days of it, and it really is affordable when you compare it to normal living expenses. It can be a lot cheaper, actually. When we did our expenses, it was a lot cheaper than just living in the United States with a normal rent, normal food expenses. So I think there's always a way that you can figure out the time, money, and your health aspect to figure out your own Camino to do it your own way. So I would say the same thing. Don't wait, because that's the one thing we can't get back is time. And of the entire experience, the number one thing in life, in my opinion, is to spend time with those you love. And so with us living so far away, generally, I feel like most people get to see each other for holidays, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And if you only have 30 or 40 years left, you can do the quick math where you might only see that person 50 to 100 more times. And that's just really crazy to think about. So don't wait to spend time with those you love.
Yeah, well, those are great answers, both of them. So thank you for sharing all that. And thank you for being here today with our viewers. And for you, pilgrims, please keep adding your comments on the comment sections. And that way we know what other topics we need to cover for future episodes. Thank you very much to Buen Camino, everyone.
Buen Camino. It feels good to say those words. Buen Camino. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Efrain.